So once again, good evening, everybody. I'm glad to welcome you to this section, which is dedicated to the transformation of educational programs for training of personnel of the digital world, or leaders of the digital world, prospects and challenges. I hope very much, as this is Friday evening and you are present here, this present is the subject is of great interest to you. It might be interesting for several reasons. One of them is the business reason, and if we look at how various countries exist and compete in the knowledge-based economy, one of the sources of competitive edge is creation of such potential which can be developed by new branches of the economy. And what is very important for the educational process? For universities, it is also an element of competitiveness. For students, whom I see, though not many of them here in this room, it is also interesting to see how the knowledge which they get conforms with the realities of the future. The educational programs are also important for employers, without doubt, because it is also an element of building a competitive edge. What is the problem which we see now? And this is some criticism which can be leveled at the academic structures of universities, of other higher education institutions, is that we are falling behind the modern trends. We are too slow to react to the changes which happen on the markets, and we are too slow to create programs which can produce new personnel who would be able to change reality and to meet the criteria for this process. At this session, we have, in fact, a lot of experts who will represent various points of view on this issue. I would subdivide the experts into three groups: those who represent the state and who look at this process globally, those who represent education institutions and who look at the question what they can offer to the market, and of course the third group are the employers who would like to see how effectively do educational institutions train this new personnel. I'm very glad and I'm grateful that Sergey Ilyich Vorobyov, president of Word Howl, the greatest HR company in Russia, has joined us as a co-moderator. Why am I grateful? HR is nowadays an industry which sees the gaps between the actual educational institutions and what personnel is put on the market now, and those education programs for new generations, and the requirements of employers nowadays. So I hope that Sergey Ilyich will add perspective to our discussion in order to make the discussion really critical, because the situation is not quite ideal, and the universities see the development in one way, and the employers create their own laboratories and centers of knowledge, and here we need to look for synergy. Therefore, I would like to ask, if I have not said everything that I should have, I would like to ask Sergey Ilyich to add something. And now I give the floor to the experts. Thank you very much. Good evening. There are a lot of speakers, so I will try not to take as little time as possible. Nonetheless, I would like to ask all the speakers to answer two questions if they believe it useful. First of all, translate. Please translate into Russian without a single English word. What is a third course, and which of them is really important for you? It is easy for the tongue to describe what the eye sees, as our eyes do not see a competitive higher education. It is very difficult to discuss or to describe or to define soft skills. So if at the end of our discussion we arrive at a single understanding and definition of soft skills, it would be very good. So let us talk about what should be taught and how. And it seems that the questions are quite simple, but the devil is in the details, as they say. And even the question of what to teach, what is to be taught, can we answer it in a comprehensive way nowadays? It's a complicated question. So I would like to ask Valeriu Kulikovsky, a partner for Russia and CIS of the school, who has defined for herself and for their corporation their vision of the modern world. Once again, I'm Valeria Bolikovskaya. I'm a partner of IMD for Russia and the CIS. This is a business school which is situated, if you don't know, in Switzerland and in Singapore. It is an international business school, and this is a school that for many years have been the first in this segment of executive education. According to the Financial Times rating, we focus on certain parts of the education segments. We don't cover all of them. And when I share our experience with you, it considers a certain group. We focus on developing senior managers, and not just business leaders, but also leaders of non-governmental organizations and leaders of states in about 30 states of the world. It is also important to mention when speaking about IMD, the IMD, we are known about our practical, down-to-earth approach to education when each program, even an open one, a regular program, is focused on task solving, that is solving the tasks faced by managers who come there. So what sort of expertise in the field of digitalization of business does the IMD school have? Let's try again. Once more. Then I will ask to help me to switch the slides, because I cannot do that. It doesn't work. In 2015, that is relatively recently, in early 2015, the Cisco company, together with IMD Business School, opened the first global center for studying this trend in the world. Before we rush into teaching of digitalization, we decided to do this ourselves, to understand it ourselves, to get an understanding of it. This center has created a considerable intellectual capital. It has conducted research, both universal and also on some individual specific industries. Business models have been developed and auditing models have been developed which would allow an organization to understand, does it need to transform? Because, yes, transformation is very popular now, but take into account its own ecosystem, its country context. Does it need to go through digitalization independently? And models of competences of leaders have been also researched into, and business cases have been written and books have been published too. Data on the research this research, this intellectual capital has served as the base of a great number of open programs in this school on this subject, and also over 100 customized corporate programs for various organizations, not only business organizations, but also organizations of the public and state organizations. Within the framework of our comprehensive study, in order for us, first of all, to understand what digitalization is and what to do about it, we have established the degree of risk of destruction or transformation of an organization. We have developed a digital tornado model, and here you see those organizations which are already being destroyed and which will be very much destroyed in the next 5 years. The closer an organization is to the vortex of the tornado, the more destructive it will be for it. And we started our work with these organizations which are based in these industries, and we started teaching the trend of digitalization to the leaders of such organizations, and we made research on digitalization strategy of these organizations. Which education challenges we as the IMD school get from the business, society, and state. It is very important to note that these challenges are the product of this new trend of digitalization. Challenge number one, the understanding itself. Honestly, lots of books have been written, lots of articles have been written. We have been discussing this subject, but if you ask some respectable leaders of business what it is all about, the digitalization, we'll see that we have somewhat different vocabulary and different understanding of the trend. And we want everybody arrive at the same understanding and the same vocabulary. And we want them to understand what it means for them personally, for their organizations, for their industry. This is a challenge which is thrown to us by society, by the business, by the state. And challenge number two, yes, okay, we have understood what digitalization is. We understand which business models exist, which new strategies exist, and we have developed not just a strategy, but also an implementation plan for it. But in order to put this all effectively into life, into practice, we need to transform ourselves as leaders, because digitalization changes also the classical understanding of effective leadership. It not altogether, but still it puts new requirements for certain competences and requires new skills for leaders to be effective in new conditions of constant change and unpredictability. Challenge number three is perhaps less rare than the first two challenges. The challenge from the organizations. Teach us how to teach not only the tip of the iceberg. You remember that we concentrate on the top management, but you have taught the top management, but now give us, as the leaders of corporate universities, of organizations, how we can to scale this knowledge. Sometimes an interesting requirement is made: how to lead to a single vocabulary, a single understanding, not only our organization, but also our clients, our business partners. It's all very interesting. And how do we answer these challenges? The first challenge, the understanding of digitalization trend. How we do meet it methodologically? We have three logical blocks for people. First of all, they should understand why they need to transform, what they need to transform, and how to transform. Within the first block, we speak about digitalization in general, not only its understanding, but also its mechanisms. But the objective put before every program, even an open program, Some groups introduce a certain mechanism which allows every participant to get an understanding which opportunities digitalization gives to its organization. The second block, what should be transformed? We facilitate auditing of digitalization of the organization in order to understand how much we should change. We give a business model. It's very interesting. Unfortunately, I haven't got the time for it. We speak about new value-creating models, new strategies which allow us to play with it, to work with our hands within our own company. And the final thing, I have no time now to go very deep into that, into each model as shown on this slide. But the last section is how it should be transformed. It is the most practical one, and within this part of the program, we help the participants of the program to develop the strategy for digitalization and going over to Agile. The second challenge is the most difficult one. We meet it, and our clients seem to be happy, but it is really a very difficult one, the transformation of a leader. How can we become more effective as leaders in new conditions? From the point of view of business, of agility, adaptability of business, everything is clear. There are descriptions, models, and mechanisms, and we understand how we can make our organization more flexible. But how can we make a human being a more agile, a more flexible, a more effective leader, less hierarchical, more emotional, more developed emotional and cultural intellect? Well, it goes against our nature. No one likes to be changed, and we, as an educational institution, now have this task to put leaders, to take leaders out of the comfort zone and to make them stay there and feel they're comfortable. It is very difficult. I will show you certain methodologies that we do use, but this is not some one-off things. It is a comprehensive approach. There are new trends here, for example, self-digitalization. I think that students who are here in this room have heard the quantified self concept. How can we understand ourselves and control ourselves, understand how you feel? I have no time to go deep into this, but this is very important. Development of emotional intellect is very important for the practice of our authentic leadership. We have techniques of simulation and many other approaches. All those approaches and methodologies are part of one big whole, and it is important to understand that when we work with a top managers team, we do not just look at what entities could be put into a program. Every time we must start from a new page. We should assess the context, not just the internal, but also the external, the country context. We should understand the organization. We should understand the characteristics of the group of top managers and personal characteristics of every member of the team in order to understand which approaches we should offer in order to develop the agility of the members of the team which has approached us. And the third challenge, I'm not going to details, but it is very important. It is when a company itself wants to learn educational methods for top managers in order to popularize the skills and knowledge inside. And we have an organization learning an action program to meet this challenge. This program is for leaders in those companies who are responsible for education. These are directors of corporate universities, personnel directors, and their deputies. And within the framework of this 5-day program, I'm not going to details, we speak about the new paradigm of corporate education, because it is important not just to understand what digitalization is and how we can train clients and personnel and teach it to them, but we should understand how we should transform ourselves. There are new technologies, new approaches, and we have set ourselves a task within 5 days in this program to get a new strategy, a new plan of implementation of a tool, so that we should become more digital, more relevant in our new conditions. Or in the time that I have before myself, I have described the 3 challenges, educational challenges, which have been given to us by the market, business community, the state, and the society. And I would like to finish with this well-known phrase, a quotation from Charles Darwin. It is not the stronger of the species that survives, not the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to things. And I would even paraphrase, for who finds his own answer to change. And this is the answer to those requirements that the new digital world makes to us. Thank you, Valeria. Sergey Ilyich, do you have any questions? Please tell about the soft skills, how you can define them. Well, I have spoken about digitalization. For me, and I will speak for myself because our school speaks English. For me, these are human skills. I would call soft skills are not soft skills. They are human skills. Skills of a human being, which we meet now. And these skills are becoming the most important in our new times, the times of new terminology, new vocabulary, the skills of working with people, with human beings. So these are human skills. Thank you. And now the subject of international programs, how this is being developed in the West. Konstantin Fokin, who is an honorary president of the Business Angels Association. And Konstantin used to be the leader of the Innovation Agency of Moscow, and in fact, he organized training programs and gathered scientific knowledge as to what should be taught and learned, created platforms, and is now immersed in the education process in a university. He will talk about it himself, I believe. So please share with us your vision, what you see now, and your experience, and what you would suggest for development in the Russian market. Thank you, Anna. First of all, I would answer to the question posed by Sergey. What is soft skills? I have six skills, among them technologies and thinking, technology of thinking, communication skills, teamwork, reflection, empathy, and ethics. If you can consider it as a skill, teamwork, interaction, communication, teamwork, reflection, empathy, ethics. The most complicated for Russia are reflection. It's not me who said so. This is the voice of the people. And I will add something to what Anna has said. I have been sitting and thinking. I have had such long and intimate relationship with the education industry. I have learned all my life myself. And at the age of 47 last year, I became once again a student. I have 2 children who are studying, so I have 2 investments in educational projects, offline and an online one. On the development of organizations, I have been cooperating with the Moscow government and also with the Ministry of Education before that. So I look at the situation from various angles. Perhaps I should put into words why we have this question of the transformation of the education system. Well, I connect it with the interesting times in which we live. In the third or fourth time, it is called, which we have been going through this, the transformation of the technological and economic system. There will be, so very soon we will have new professions, whole clusters of technologies that will change our life, the artificial intelligence and materials with new properties, digital production, and serious changes in the energy market. We will become not, all of us become not only consumers, but also producers of energy. We will exchange with data with the energy network. So what does it mean? It means that everything will change. This system of education might be the first thing that will change. And I try to look at this situation through the eyes of various participants in this market, if we can call it so, through the eyes of the power of the authorities of the government, of the Ministry of Education, who probably, at least by virtue of their mandate, are responsible for its competitiveness. It is financed not only from the state budget, but also from the private budgets. They are also responsible for certification, recognition of the diplomas. And what I see in a number of countries, perhaps the most advanced ones, what should be done now?
In the first place, maybe the most complex thing from a point of view of the technological burden, which is we need to recognize that we are not aware of what would be coming in the future. We are not aware what kind of professions would be in high demand, what kind of competence or expertise would be in demand, and how can we obtain or get this. So we need to base ourselves on these prerequisites. Those dealing with the budgets, especially in education, you, of course, can recognize that we are talking about the number of competencies. We are dealing with the higher education institutions. We have governmental standards, and schools should abide by these standards, and they believe that we are aware of a number of professions that we need to get in the future in a number of years. This is an illusion of self-deception, and that could be quite detrimental for the country in the future. Even in the highly industrial countries like the United States, they have the state order in terms of professions. And in states, various states, sometimes states provide some financing for a number of professions without indicating specifically the specific number of these professions. They are just trying to purchase a number of professions, and they don't have such a system that they need to fix a number that we need 25,000 lawyers, 25,000 economists. They don't have it. This is what we need to get away from. And secondly, you can do anything practically. You cannot do nothing without financing. This is a politically motivated, politically strong issue. Two aspects in the light of the leadership based on the previous prerequisites. We need to ensure the freedom the budgetary freedom of the educational institutions, and we see empirical legislative framework, the demonstration. We see that those countries that decided to move along this way 25 years ago succeeded in that, like in Finland, in South Asian countries, South Korea, Switzerland, to some extent. So they invited the proper guys, I'm talking about the secondary education, and they are doing the right things, proper things with respect to the school children. They're trying to disseminate the best practices, methods in a free manner. And the last thing is the freedom of a schoolboy or a schoolgirl. On paper, we have per capita funding of school children. So school is funded regarding the number of school children. Either you take the whole curriculum or you don't have anything. You cannot split the network curricula, having one subject from one school or replacing one subject for another. So in practice, it's not appropriate, and we need to attain this. Neither directors, but rather parents and school children are extremely interested in this, where to spend money and what skills they are willing to get. And this should be recorded somehow in terms of relevance. Out of my 4 proposals, three out of my 4 proposals are now recorded in the year's program for education. For the future education minister, Trump invited her, so just to add some funding, reject the federal standards, which they have been trying to impose on the states, and to promote freedom of parents, provide maybe vouchers to the parents to spend them for the subject they are willing to get. This experiment has been conducted at the level of several states quite successfully. Some state-funded schools were closed, some were transformed in various forms, some private schools, charter schools, non-commercial organizations. So they trying to tune the education to the interest of the major taxpayers. In the eyes of the school children, it's not only our children, it's also, we are also the children. We should get away from illusion that I graduated from school, higher education. No way. This time has gone. You need to learn as long as you live. You can lose your profession, get another one, a new one, and the sooner each of us gets rid of this illusion, the better. No one is aware of the labor market, how to get there. But no one should get rid of this illusion in order to make our life more sober. In my opinion, we will face more issues, more difficulties when we supplement our work with education, when you have work, when you see that you don't have enough skills and you need to get more knowledge or expertise, and you got some skills, education, and then you're coming back to school, and after that to work. Maybe that would be a wise idea to leave the higher education after the second year and maybe to get some working skills and get back to education again. So it's not an easy story. It's not an easy market, labor market. In my opinion, we face a purely innovative process, which is the testing of errors. So curriculum should be shorter. They should be linked to some campaigns. If we are talking about digital production or technologies, they should be linked with the people, business people, in terms of looking for the ways of cooperation. You can hardly find a proper linkage between the business processes and education just sitting here in the educational room. You need to develop not only motorics of your hands, online, offline. In online, all gens related with the lecturing just make some money. That would be impossible. Practically, it's cost zero. You just got online, listening to the lecturing of some professors without wasting your time traveling abroad just to get this lecture. But in order to manage the skills, promote interaction, you can get away from offline. That requires proper moderation, some educational work or processes. In my opinion, the length of this curriculum would be shorter. This is a win-win situation. This is a line of softliners. So far, I just quit talking. Thank you very much, Konstantin. And thank you very much for the problem that you raised in terms of that now we face the situation when we don't understand properly well what we should teach. Since I'm academic director of a FinTech company, this area, which is in line with the trends, doesn't mean that it would be easier to develop curriculum. Many topics at Gaidar Forum raised regarding where would be banks in some year time, and we cannot formulate this. Our task is to prepare staff or personnel for the future banks. This is the major task which we see as organizers of these educational processes. And the next speaker I would like to give the floor would be a person who maybe gives us a hint. What should we teach? Maybe we need to turn to futurologists, and I would like to give the floor to Mr. Sorokin. How do you see the role of higher educational institutions so that to ensure the support of those initiatives initiated by the government and your organizations? Anna, thank you very much. So the question, the way you ask the question sometimes means that you limit somehow the way I should respond. Now I see the enormous power of IC in some circles. Partly this glory is deserved, but partly not. I just would like to mention some aspects mentioned by the previous speakers when you and we're talking about what should be taught or how should we teach. But we need to understand for whom or whom, because those tasks raised by the economic development or economic growth, they are somehow translated into those social systems which perform, I wouldn't say service functions. Today's Minister of Education rejected this idea that this is a service, but maybe service guiding direction, because there is a service which should be guided to somewhere, to some area, to be digested. That is why the question, whom and why. I believe these two questions are quite important. Before I start talking to the point, I tried to respond to Sergey's question. Sergey just raised a very simple question. Please translate what is soft skills. My methodological response, I would say that supra-educational skills. But how do we interpret this? Methodological response, once again, these are the skills and expertise which are needed in many areas of activities. Sometimes we cross-sectoral or cross-cutting skills. Then we can name those skills. Some of them were named by Konstantin. We can range them cross-cutting, not cross-cutting, major, not major. With respect to the soft skills in general, one should recognize the following, that parts of these skills, I mean cross-cutting skills, so this list would be transformed or is transforming in time. We have been talking about transformation from one technological level to another technological level, and the changes of the technological levels could produce the change of the social levels. That could serve as a basis or maybe an explanation why we see the changes of the priorities in terms of soft skills. So soft skills are now in high demand. Those soft skills that were not in high demand 100 years ago. Then maybe as a continuation, I would try to develop Konstantin's idea or thoughts, namely that I'm talking about on the side of futurologists. I would say that we can name those areas, those professions that would be in a demand in some years' time. And partly I can agree with what Konstantin was saying. But I can say, what can we say? What does it mean? I mean, the term of advanced education. Why should advanced or... So in this case, yes. But from another point of view, so far cannot predict what would be in a high demand from a point of view of the professions, maybe in a decade time, but we can see or predict the areas or directions that would be in high demand or relevant. We call them cross-cutting directions. For example, big data. And I, as a person with a fundamental basics education, I talked about big science. This data science, with respect to the big data, would be serving as a cross-cutting technology, which comes through a huge number of professions and areas of occupation. So maybe I try to demonstrate what I was saying, and in order to save some time, I just would like to ask the audience. Anyone is aware of the National Technological Initiative? So around 25–30% of the audience is aware of this notion. So I would do the following. Those who are willing to get some details, I would like to invite you to the web portal NTI 2035. There are some online courses explaining this notion. Now I tried to get just a notion, or in a nutshell, what we are talking about here, and the basis for the Russian economy, and not only the Russian economy, and to explain the relevant directions of the economic development and staff promotion. Now I'm try to reduce the number of times when I use the term staff or personnel. Why NTE looks like it looks like. In general, this is the upper level. This is a visionary presentation of those conditions where we are. In Russian Federation, from left to right and clockwise, the investment climate, institutional climate, geographic climate. So these are the conditions which we can hardly do or hardly change. We need to live in these conditions for near a decade, but maybe a number of decades. So maybe we try to transform this, but that would be a gradual transformation. Maybe you can hardly expect some magics in 5-year time. Now we are talking about the geopolitical situation in the world, which could hardly be radically changed in the near future. Some people are talking about the Islamic fundamentalism. It continue to exist, and it plays some of the key roles on the world arena. So we don't have prerequisites for the price growth for hydrocarbons for the next 20 years, maybe even beyond this date. But if we look at the energy of the biggest economy in the world, like Germany, we see that the alternative segment amounts to only 30%, and by 2025 they intend to reach 60%. But we need to realize the scope of these figures. If you look at the notion Trotsky inside, then this is a sort of declaration that we are living in the times of the permanent technological revolutions. These technological waves, just like in a Doppler effect, they are getting closer and closer at higher speed, and we are talking about the technological singularity. This is not the topic for today, but the trends are there. And today, at present, this technological revolution is practically transformed to a permanent thing. In such context, we understand that for the Russian companies, which would like maybe to dominate in terms of the value supply chain at the existing markets, practically they do not any chance. Those owners of the standards, I mean intellectual property power, and the intellectual property basis and those resources accumulated by them and available to them. So they won't let anyone in this sphere. That's the world is about. And maybe you try to find your niche of maybe 0.4% and the added value chain. This split on the margins is concentrated in R&D and concentrated in to a greater extent in marketing and work with the customers. In terms of production, in technologies evolution era, so the price goes or strives to zero, and maybe during next 20 years we will observe the situation as it is. On the basis of these prerequisites, the National Technological Initiative focuses on the following things. That's okay if we don't have any chances in the current markets. And at the same time, we realize that during next 10 or 20 years, some new significant volumes of new markets would come into play. So we have some visions of these markets like portable gadgets and so on and so forth. Then we will see that NTI to some extent is a policy of preparedness or readiness for conquering possibilities or opportunities in the blue ocean markets. There is a set of requirements, quite stringent requirements in terms of selections of this market. I wouldn't like to dwell on them. You see them on the slide. This is the markets, BTI markets, and customer-oriented markets, so where the customer is the C clients. It's far from a business model, but frankly speaking, Roman speakers trying to hint that you should look to the time rules. Okay, I skip these comments. You can find it on the portal 2035. Summing up, NTI has been transformed into a picture which is called by asymmetrics, which at the upper level has the number of technological directions, and it's quite clear that this direction should generate trends for the future development. And at the same time, we understand that high-level global education is possible, is feasible, where you have advanced sciences coming into play. Otherwise, it's not possible. So here on the right, you see the scale, which is called talents. We are not mentioning professions. We are talking about the competencies or specializations. We are not talking about personnel or staff. We are talking about talents. And NTI, in our opinion, focuses on identification and promotion and attraction of these talented or gifted guys. So we can talk about the donors or Hershey, our scientists who are coming back to Russia. But if I need to scrap it or sum it up, I just try to fix my idea. NTI, according to this logic, so this is the focus on the talented guys. Secondly, educational is possible only there where we have the high-level education. So directions are known. No one challenged this. And the fourth aspect, which means Maybe I'll try this in a greater detail in the sidelines of these meetings. 3 topics: quality, speed, and prioritization. And vice versa, prioritization when we talk about the transformation in response to the challenges. So we have term great challenges, which is recorded in the Russian national strategy adopted by the president last December. I'm coming to the end. This is a very important aspect. It means that great challenges, these are the tasks that you cannot respond to using simple resources. You need to use proper methodological approaches. Therefore, the transformation regarding in education, you should set priorities. And priorities and strategy is when you should reject something. You should select something if you understand that you're going somewhere, so you are going in the wrong direction. Second aspect is speed. History is global, and crimes are taken by the person who can provide quality. If you do it quickly but without quality, so it's useless. And quality. I would like to discuss the quality of the educational programs. And quality in this sense means a product, or educational product, which in high demand, not in your backyards, not in your country, but in the global market. Because today's current globalization requires such approaches. So this is what I wanted to say so far.
Well, thank you very much, Roman. And Sergey Ilyich, thank you. Very briefly, you have made us afraid, but you haven't said what should we renounce. What's the prioritization? Look, once again, my representation is visionary and methodological, and in every case it depends on the strategy of what you are building, and depending on it, we will enumerate what we are going to give up. But the essence is that without giving up things, there can be no clear strategy. So you have no answer. It's very specific, or you are not going to give it to us now. Well, my answer matches your question. Who, us, should give up what? So the question is here more concerning the budgets, which can be used for funding various areas. And so giving up things means that if somebody sees some other areas like IMD, which has identified certain industries on which it focuses because they are demanded by the market. And as regards the state, it has some limited funding, which can be used only for certain areas. And this can be one of many alternatives. There can be a lot of them. Thank you very much, Roman. And now it would be logical to ask Alexei Gusev the next question, who perhaps will develop the subject by answering us what should be changed qualitatively in the education environment, what should be done in order to make it work effectively. Do we understand what centers of knowledge shaping are? Thank you very much. I will take the risk to answer Sergey's question, what should be given up. My personal option is, well, it is my personal, it's not a version of the Russian venture company. If we want to build in the country at least a few centers of training, not personnel, but the leaders of the modern digitalized world, and we will have only a digital world in which new values, added value, will be developed. We should give up we should give up copying the model of traditional Russian universities. This is what I can speak about universities. I cannot speak for secondary school because we do not work much with them, but we work a lot with universities, and I can develop the thesis or why we should not copy the old university model. Will not allow us to educate new leaders. So this is the crucial thing which has been reflected by the name of the discussion to which we have come. I would support Roman. We should forget about the word personnel, and our ambition should be to educate leaders. And it is important to understand here that the education system as a whole cannot be leader-oriented. Leaders can be trained only in several niches, in several separate leading universities, or perhaps not universities, or perhaps some other institutions like business schools or some other formats which do not yet exist. But it would be impossible to say that the whole Russian system of education will educate future leaders. So the questions perhaps will come later. But please, Russia is a relatively small country from the point of view of the education market and the population as a whole. If we want to educate leaders, the only thing which should be massive, we should have a huge entrance to those universities, representatives of the leading universities or business schools. Well, if you talk about Russia, it's the Moscow State University of Physics and Technology University and a few other leading ones. Perhaps will not be able to refute my words if I say that one of the main factors of success for a university is a huge number of people who want to enter the university. If you do not have a lot of young people wanting to become your students, you won't be able to educate leaders. And in view of the fact that Russia is a small country, we must be open to the flow of people from other countries. Of course, we won't be able to bring in anyone from Europe or the United States, but it is very important to work with countries of the third world. It is something very important for Russian education, and it has not yet been implemented. And if we do not do that, we won't have competition of our own students with future students from other countries. We will not be competitive. Another thing which is important is speed. Speed is of great importance. And I believe that the state education, budget-based education, has no chances, neither schools nor universities. It's my personal view, because in any country, it concerns not just Russia, but any large country, education is highly regulated, and it is physically impossible for representatives of universities to make such programs which would be in keeping with the pace of the change. We have already spoken about the technological revolution, the space of replacement of technological cycles. It is very difficult to do this in state budget-based universities. I see here in this room a few heroes who are trying to do this and do this rather successfully, but these are rather exceptions. So it is a private education which can meet the challenge of the pace. I'm not against state education. The state education has another function. It must support the existing system of social of social model. This is my second private position. So the second factor for educating leaders is speed. Now, third, here I would like to remember what I started with, why a research university cannot be the ideal model for us. A research university is often divorced from the market. Of course, it's not always like this. There are some exceptions. There are universities who manage to combine the ivory tower model with market effectiveness, but the very model of research university was born at the time when the pace of change, technological change, and the pace of change in the labor market was far lower. Nowadays, breakthrough innovations are born not only in the defense sector, where half of research universities worked, in Russia or in the States. They ensured the defense potential of the country. Nowadays, the majority of breakthrough innovations are born in the consumer market. And here, a university which does not put market above itself is incapable of educating leaders for this new market. So, it has already been said, but let me repeat it without going to detail. It is useless to teach a profession because persons will have to change their professions perhaps 15 times during their labor cycle. So it's useless for a student, and it would be good for the state and for those who calculate the labor market to give up profession training. And so a university must not prepare students for profession as a unit. It must prepare them for new markets, the virtual reality market. So the market can be the unit for which we should prepare students. Perhaps soft skills. Unfortunately, I won't be able perhaps to answer what soft skills are, although I might try. It's useless to teach a profession. And the very position of a teacher as someone who hands over knowledge is obsolete. Those educational formats will be able to educate leaders. I am not saying on purpose schools or universities, because these could be different formats, which would be the first to be able to integrate children into teaching, where children will become able to teach other children or themselves, or students, if not children. Such formats will be able to educate leaders. And finally, of course, it's a hypothesis. It's very difficult to give the arguments for it. Nowadays, a lot of traditional markets, a large part of traditional markets are being broken because of the marketplace phenomenon. The best known marketplace is vacation or holidays, and we know the Uberization word. We are a little bit tired of this word Uberization, and education will perhaps be also subjected to Uberization, and perhaps a marketplace will appear, an agent which will act as a nexus between the products or product providers and consumers. Well, there are no reasons to expect it to appear within the next few years. But if a country or a company manages to invent at least a prototype for such an Uber for education. This will be very interesting, and this perhaps will be this new type education, which will be in harmony with the realities of the digital world, of the technological revolution, etc. But this is possible only in a deregulated market. In such regulated markets as Russia and in many other developed countries where education markets are so much regulated, well, it's difficult to imagine such a marketplace. And as a separate subject, I would like to note, not perhaps an answer to your question, but because it seems to me that it should be voiced during today's discussion, a very important part of education will become ensuring data security. Nowadays, we see in politics very serious problems connected with security and insecurity of data. Education collects a lot of data on its user. By inertia, a lot of data exists in non-digital forms, and they are digitalized only when it is ordered by the higher authorities. And the market of these data will become very big, and the providers which will be able to convince the user of the security of such data will become very great providers on the education market, and they will be popular with those personnel or leaders, and they will be able to set up startups or foundations which will become leaders of this digital world. And as regards the soft skills question, I will try to answer it. After all, there's a banal answer that the main soft skill is the ability to learn. I think it has been voiced here. Not? No. I think it's even in the Iron Your Fate film, it has been mentioned, in some classic sources at least. And I would also say that besides the ability to learn in the digital world, the digital hygiene will be of great importance. One of the main types of activities today for everybody is information search, and the ability to stop the search and to take a decision or to stop using this information for some time in order to assimilate it or to be able to use certain tools. This will be one of the main skills, not just the ability of working with information, but also the ability to assimilate it correctly or to distinguish between clean information from some not very good information. I think it's enough. Yes, thank you very much. And in order to make the discussion more energetic, we have heard the point of view of the state and infrastructure points of what should be taught to whom, and that the majority of universities is incapable of doing it. We should finish by hearing the point of view of the employers, those who are the customers of education, those who employ university leavers. What are they unhappy about in the current activities of universities? What would like they to see? Which programs would they like to see in universities? So I would like to ask Vadim Kalhov, Director of the Department of Financial Technologies of Projects, Organizations and Processes of the Central Bank, who has been actively promoting and is being part of the concept of the FinTech market development, and who influences education process. So, Vadim, the floor is yours. Thank you, colleagues, for this possibility to speak. I understand this is Friday evening, New Year Eve, and Friday the 13th, so not the perhaps the best moment to discuss education programs in the country. I will try to approach the subject from a different perspective, in this way that we have a lot of communication with the universities. We try to answer questions which students have in their communication with the banks, with insurance companies. We have a lot of contacts with such students, and we are trying to understand how we should develop this structure of education. We see certain gaps which we have. I'm close to students, to the practice. It's perhaps more difficult for me to discuss agility, and I can talk about teamwork and soft skills, etc., etc. But there is a big gap with the hard skills. And I would say that if you have not developed a process, but you are trying to do something, you have automated chaos. When it is difficult, when you have bad hard skills and you have only soft skills, you will have a lot of demagogues who are trying to develop a concept for a bright future, and people don't know algebra, do not know trigonometry, they don't know anything like this. And so I'm very skeptical about such teams. It is really important. It is really important. Soft skills are really important, but at different levels of organization, you should apply different things. What is applicable at the executive level should not be done at Tilla's working place. Tilla sits there and he's afraid of becoming unemployed because his job will be given to a robot. People used to believe that their job is forever, and now you don't have it. And there are people who are trained for 3 years to become advisor salesmen, and they don't know what they are being taught. There are some people who are taught to become computer operated. It seemed to be a very important education. But now I look at such computer operators who do not know touch typing. They type with 2 fingers. And so we have talents which have been grown in. It's very good, but if you don't have a broth for a grown talent, does not find a place for itself. As such a talented person has always been told that he was the best, and he now on the edge of something. And what is beyond this edge? A void. He simply falls down. There's not enough broth for it. We just have one person, once a very skilled person, one talented person, but he is alone. There are such people, but we don't. Individual geniuses are not enough. We need an environment. And people should be taught basic knowledge of mathematics, algebra, physics, chemistry. Because if we speak very nicely to each other without knowing the basic principles, we can have dozens of programs and accesses and lots of other things, but without basic education, it's all useless. And I totally agree with the previous speakers that students must be ready to learn continuously. We should always learn new things. So you learn how to write a letter to a foreigner. So you learn the pattern, dear Mister, and then you write it. Now we have emails, and you will see that now a lot of teachers of foreign languages are getting unemployed because people now try to learn languages in Skype with native speakers. So teachers believed that they had their jobs forever because people will forever need to learn languages. But now they can learn them without teachers. So things which 5 years ago we began to discuss at similar meetings. So we have now the problem of people who are unable to learn a new profession and who lost their old one. So there is no retraining. And without retraining, no state will be capable in the conditions of this transformation be successful. There is, nowadays we will have a transformation not just only of technology but also of society. And if there is a big gap between highly educated people who can find jobs for themselves, good jobs for themselves, and the majority of people who have no necessary skills, so there used to be a lot of great professions. Well, somebody has become a very good cake maker. Well, of course, perhaps this profession will exist in future, but nonetheless, there are so many robots which are doing now things which people used to work. Let me give you a simple example, including medical insurance. We will wear various bracelets, and this will be the basis for medical insurance, and you won't be able to deceive a doctor. Did you eat yesterday? You say no, but the bracelet will show yes. So all sorts of information about you will be available, and this will change business models. But how does it change it? People should calculate. For example, banks and insurance companies have turned into some into entities that need very complicated mathematical models, and if you make a little mistake, you'll lose a lot of money. What our university have turned into, I wouldn't say that our education should be buried. We have all been educated in these universities. We all believe that we are intelligent, beautiful, ambitious, etc., etc., it is hardly possible that only we are so great and all the other university leavers are not so good. The only thing which lacks is professional training. A person is taught for 5 years to become a certain a specialist, and they have not seen the place where they will work. For example, somebody is being educated to become a bank employee, and he thinks, bank, what am I going to do in the bank? There are no, pits with gold, just like Mr. Scrooge liked to swim in. There's just a lot of paper, a lot of bump, and people come there and think, well, what we have been taught is about this, but not quite about this, and so there is a lot of it is very difficult to adapt. So we should do some practice. Of course, universities send institutes to certain practice, and now our students have to look themselves for such place where they can do some practical work, and so they bring a certificate with a stamp to show, and they do not get a really good practice. When I was a student, I came to a bank and they gave me a plan of accounts which I had to to calculate it. And I didn't know what to do. It's like, you know, this joke about a madman who has read a book with a lot of characters that was a phone directory. So when people come to such inadequate practical work, they really become even more disappointed than they were before. So we are now living in an open world, and we look at each other, and all companies look for bright students who are adaptable. They are trying to find them, to select them, and after that they try to make them very interested in this company so that they would start working there. This has become part of practice for certain organizations, but these are just certain growth points which we are trying to find, but it doesn't cover everything. I believe that such involvement at earlier stages of education, at the fourth year of university, when it is then that we should start, so that they would understand what do they want. For example, if they want to work in a bank, whether they want to be a risk analyst or head of a department or something else, or whether he wants to go to an insurance company or pension fund, etc. Because he has got some general education, but they do not understand many particular things. It is a very hard threshold, and I remember that for me it was very painful. I had to overcome it, and I was not quite ready for that. So we should show more real life to our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good idea that you touched upon such a problem as a gap in between what the employer wants from the staff and when the employees are coming to their new workplace and they do not have any idea what they are supposed to do. So I would like to ask the RVK about their opinion. Maybe this is the structural transformation, because all the structures are interested in these transformation processes. Or maybe you are willing to add something. If you want me, I would like to add something. Yes, we have running out of the time. So how can we construe this sort of communication so that the higher educational institutions can perform better? So Mr. Voloshin maybe would try to respond to this question. How can we enhance the efficiency of these programs? Because you have some projects already implemented, large-scale projects. So what should be done by other persons? Thank you very much. Good evening. I also would like to touch upon the problem of the interaction with the higher educational institutions. Coaching with the horses. I try to understand, I try to make it clear what does it mean, because I, as D'Artagnan, a bit of feel a bit stupid. I wouldn't like to talk about the interaction with higher educational institutions. This is the fourth panel. We have everything's fine with them. We have more than 264 departments and chairs, and hard skills means okay. Maybe some fine-tuning is needed, but employers should ensure the proper interaction with higher educational institution. I have colleagues with the physics and technological institution. Then, if you have already established or managed to establish proper relations, that you usually do not have any problems. There is another problem with the soft skills. Maybe I would provide to describe a context. It would be simpler today. We have a modest task to get in top 25 in terms of corporation, high revenues corporations. But we need to sell something because our corporation is traditionally engaged in the defense sector. This is a stagnating industry, and we need to boost the share of the civil production in our output or in services. So it means that we need enormous number of new people. What does it mean? New people, which in many cases, with all R&D defense projects, should generate civil-oriented projects. These are the engineers, because we are trying to focus on innovative technological revolution, and I believe that these are the people who are called to create, to generate a new product. So with respect to these engineers, it's quite clear that the thing which is coming in the first place, soft skills, I feel a little bit puzzled without all these ideas that I have already heard at this panel. At least I try to explain soft skills is more complex things, especially in our country. We have some context. Defense industry. If you planned to build or to produce tanks for the next 15, 20 years, then you ordered engineering skills. So you have a fishbone plan for next 15 years and no problem in the future. So if you remember such a notion as state planning industry, then you understand what I'm talking about. But market industry, market planning, these more complex things, time to market, agile, and so on and so forth. Different stories. People who are not afraid of making mistakes, and so on and so forth. So you need to produce civil things, but the most simple way is to produce civil experiments, but in principle you are not entitled to do it. If you have some testing, then you probably the life has changed. That is why the teaching to this so-called soft skills comes into the first place, but some skepticism. I feel that now soft skills is not possible to be taught in higher educational institutions, because those people dealing with the soft skills who apply these skills in their real life, they should have a certain number of values. And this number of values, we had a panel today with Alexei Komissarov, and Alexei Komissarov told about very interesting research work. They tried to investigate the values which are quite characteristics for innovators, R&D experts. In the first place, the safety of children. Second thing is interest in life. Third life is self-dignity. Fourth, creativity. And fifth place is freedom. So let's come back to our school days. Does our secondary education contribute to having such a set of values? I don't think so. But the problem is much more bigger, because school is not the only one to formulate values in children, kindergarten. But the most important things are the parents at all discussions. And imposition of these values, maybe some more values. These would serve as drivers contributing to or enabling the bigger education or enabling of skills among our children. Probably this is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dmitry. Anna. So, soft skills, please translate it into Russian. Creativity. In my opinion, these are two different questions, definition and translation. These are skills to ensure proper communication among people in terms of results and costs, cost and results analysis. I added just creativity, probably, I don't remember. You took notes. You've been taking notes. So, categorical creativity in business. Speaks without microphone. We are not trying to criticize the authors of this work. So creativity, nothing else. All the rest was mentioned by the colleagues. And we have one more representative of the employer, Chernogorovtseva Sofia, the executive director of the selection of the talented, gifted people from Sberbank. So the same question comes to you. Probably man could change seats with those who are to speak, and practically we have the representatives of the higher educational institutions who are trying to reformat the educational processes, curriculums, and so that everyone feels comfortable while talking. You have even your names, nameplates.
Sofia, вам слово.
Sofia, you have the floor. Sergey. I try to provide a number of soft skills so that we feel that this unfulfilled requirement sometimes ends bad. So from the point of view of Sberbank, soft skills these are professional skills felt by the people with respect to other people, and the skills which this person develops inside. So the 4K, cognitive agility, communication, collaboration, and creative thinking. If you want, I can elaborate on each of these aspects. I'm sitting surrounded by my beloved colleagues from the higher educational institutions. We are not trying to dominate, and we're trying to ensure that the employees are not higher educational institutions are not regarded as service providers, but students are prepared, are taught for us. So the best educational institutions, best universities, give knowledge and expertise to their students. So of course they should have some courts, some flexibility. Now, focus is made on IT. This is software, language, and systematic thinking. And I would like to support Dmitry Voloshin, who reminded us about school, and we're trying to integrate soft skills there. We're trying to integrate them in schools, learn the teachers in order to prepare better knowledge and expertise on our children. And then, as employee, we go to universities, set some examples in terms of how can we be useful so that students are integrated well in advance into our values, and to see whether students share our values, understand their competencies, and all these values and competencies are available within the corporations, and all these corporations are looking for this in students. They are not trying to impose something. They are looking for proper teachers and professors who share, who could share in these values, which would be well in demand in the future. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much, Sofia. And we just have 6 more experts from educational institutional side. I would suggest that we start from Tagir, Aushev. So what is your vision of the future evolution of the higher educational institutions? Maybe you challenge this notion that everything is bad with education in state-funded educational institutions, and how can we change the situation? First of all, maybe I would start by providing my vision of the soft skills. These are personal skills, qualities. This is just personal ability, personal skills, and you put everything in this notion. Regarding the role of universities, I believe it would be quite difficult to say that we are properly set to educate some skills in the people. It's not because we are not able to do this. It's because it's not possible. So you set some values during the first 5 years into the person. Then it could be fixed somehow, adjusted somehow, or developed. But it would be very difficult to promote them further. What can universities do? We can set the string of universities and tune them to educate specific type of children. So children should know that there are some universities where they feel comfortable in terms of learning and get the profession they wanted to get. There are some other universities for other types of children. So if we talk about the future professions, how to develop them, it's not possible to discuss this and find final solution. So people graduated from graduated from universities. So the time span is just only 20-30 years. But in a 20-30 year time, everything could change, and we can hardly predict what would be in this time span. What we can do now is just try to learn to select people who are capable of quickly being adapted to the changing situation. These types of people should be found quickly. And this is the task of universities. Maybe not all universities, but we should select some universities to attract this kind of people. And freedom is the primary requirement for these people. And they should be a guiding star for us in terms of selection of children. The rest of universities could generate engineers, designers, accountants, and so on and so forth. But we have to have the universities to prepare to teach such people who are capable of changing situation in the future. And FinTech is not preparing such people. We're just trying to find them so that they got loose, so they know that they can develop their skills, internal skills. And we are not trying to cherish such an idea that we are able of teaching them to something. So coming back to your previous question, the main role of the universities, the creation of atmosphere or environment, proper environment for these children. And then after that, we would get a chance to get a minor portion of these people who would be capable of changing society in the 10, 15 year time span. So this is the main function of the universities, which remains unchanged. Thank you very much. So I'm a bit at a loss. We are talking about the atmosphere which should be created within the university. What does it mean? What does it include? Look, going into specifics, if we have a number of occupations or professions which require specific skills, so knowledge and skills which should be obtained by future experts or professional, and some specific industries are prepared to employ these students. But I'm referring to the professions of the future, which we are now not aware of. And if we are talking about these universities which create environment, so selective approach, individual trajectory, individual or customized curriculum and formation starting from the first year of education, of the implementation of specific ideas, so communication, interaction, the main problem not only of our educational system but the entire society, the lack of communication and of interaction. So the lack of these skills, we need to set up teams at the level of universities to teach not individual experts but experts to be employed by the enterprises. So something of this sort. I feel that I need to sum up. I believe it's clear there should be a proper environment which is comfortable for children. It's not a question. Let's try to give the time to other future speakers. So I would like, so try to be specific. When you mention environment, then after you explain, then it becomes clearer. So everyone has Yannick and Nina, heads of the analytical department of the ITMO University. I would like to ask her to share their experience on soft skills. I would start from soft skills, and I try to disagree with Mr. Aushev and maybe to support somehow. I disagree that soft skills that it means individual properties of skills. It's somewhere on the border between skills and values. Thinking about what has been said already, I concluded that soft skills are or mean the intersocial skills and capability to use them in the specific areas of occupation or activities. At the same time, just pondering about what has been said, just like an idea, soft skill should be determined as a capability and preparedness of an individual for the changes inside of this individual to adjust to the changing situation. This is the main role of the universities, changing of society, to teach people to basic knowledge and to look for the information, to use this information. So this function is expanding already now in the context of the digital world. So probably this is it, to be brief. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm a humanitarian. Probably the next speaker, Anisimov Stanislav, head of the Department of the Educational Program of the Infrastructural programs of ROSNANO. Yes, I had a very long presentation. Can you put it on the screen? So while my presentation is being put on the screen, I now in a situation that I started reading this telephone book regarding what is soft skill about. Now I remember that some of our counterparts provided a very interesting definition of the position of employer with respect to the various skills. He said, we invite people for having hard skills, but we sacked him for the lack of soft skills. Now presentation, so without decreasing the level of discussion, I would like to tell you about the experience of the transformation or creation of new educational programs. We have been dealing with that for 7 or 8 years, and we never ask ourselves why and for whom, because the mission of ROSNANO focused on the construction of nanotechnology industry, and we lacked the educational programs for this industry, and for us it was quite clear why and for whom we need to create these programs. Shall I find the button to press on, or what? What do you suggest? Perfect. I work in the Sberbank. So besides designing or the construction of the plants and funding specific industries, ROSNANO has a specific fund to fund a specific infrastructure to build these plants and to fund new educational programs to generate specific competencies available for these plants or industries. We have a lot of areas of our activities, but we finance creation of new educational programs together with the enterprises which are highly interested in that, and to do so we provide tender to select universities which are doing quite fine. So you see the diagram, 150 programs, number of graduates, so technological things, 55 partner universities. So these are the examples to look at. These are the various projects of different nature in terms of technology involved. And this could be medicine, electronics, introduction of specific things. We launched a project, the introduction of identification marks in educational institutions, Pushkin's University, and if you look at the right thing, the recent pipe producing facilities with which producing the sockets to combine pipes. So nothing will be working without these sockets. It was very difficult, complex things to do because universities, I'm not referring to those present around this table, because universities are quite bad in dealing with the orders. They said, we are smart enough to decide for ourselves what to do. The universities do not have proper skills or organs of sentiment to deal with the industries. If someone comes and say, I'm prepared to pay to you because I need precisely these things, they respond, no, you are not aware of what you want. What do you want? And we should invent the entire technology, how to create specific barriers. If enterprise doesn't say that it likes this, then we are not going to fund it. Everything is defined in feasibility study and so on and so forth. So it's very hard to deal with the universities. But once they come along this way, they like it and they want more.
So in order to avoid bragging, I decided to tell you a bit about one of our projects, not very technology consuming, but a medical one. We are a shareholder of ROSNANO, and we have a company, Pet Technology, which makes centers for diagnostics on a modern basis, or with using tomography. It is a technology of early diagnostics of cancer when the tumor is just 1 or 2 millimeters long. When at that moment, you can cure a person absolutely, at least with an astounding rate of success. And we have found out that this technology For this technology, there are no education modules in the Russian Federation. And you know, radiochemists, medical physicists, diagnosticians, managers for such centers. We thought for a long time with the company. We all have a competition for our to enter the university, but we haven't found any single educational institution which had any competences. So we managed to convince the Bashkir State University to work with that, because in Ufa there was the first center, so they have seen something at least as a result for. So not State University, but Bashkir State Medical University, and together with this Bashkir Medical University, we produced a program for five of these professions, and so we managed to sign an agreement with them, and we had a program under which 30 persons were educated, and they were our basic team for launching several such centers in the central region of Russia. And after that, we left the rights for the program in the university, and the university works training or educating rather the necessary doctors for money. You see who were the participants: a small part of Russian universities and companies, but mostly foreign universities and companies. But this education product has been created. It works. And now, together with this company, we are doing another project which is aimed at medical accelerators, cyber knives, etc. And here we have a colossal lack of competences in Russia, and the Moscow State University and Moscow Physics University are cooperating with us in this field. So I have given you an absolutely practical example from the field of medicine, but we have a lot of medicine, not so much medicine, we have mostly electronics, materials, and so this is my last bragging slide. In fact, our once made programs work in universities, and thus they improve the university environment and the ability of universities to work with industry. And here in this we see our mission too. That's all. I think I have taken enough time. Thank you. Thank you very much, Stanislav. I will put the run presentation as the last one, and now I will give to the Skolkovo Moscow School of Management representative the floor, and I will ask him to describe what they have achieved and what difficulties they have met. Dear colleagues, I have three pieces of news for one. One is good, the other one is very good, and the last one is wonderful. The good one is that I'm the last speaker before drawing conclusions. The very good one is that I'm not going to advertise our Moscow Management School of Skolkovo, because you know it already. And the best piece of news is that I have just 3 slides. I will try not to take up too much of your time, and I will start by the fact that the test of my great friend Sergey Vorobyov has been done. As for what is soft skills, of course, it is communication skills, presentation skills, negotiation skills, but as it was all of a sudden, I got this task all of a sudden, so I began to think how we should formulate it in Russian. We have to translate it. It's just the ability to live, savoir vivre. And if you want a more specific answer, it's sports, sex, family, self-development, cooperation, presentation skills, communication skills. So we should live in all these areas in the good, in the full way. So is it possible to learn it or not? Well, perhaps not everybody has been born able to do all these things, but they managed to learn them. So I think it is possible to learn such skills, but in real life we all are born very, very soft. We are 90%, we consist 90% of water, and then we lose it. And being the last speaker, I should say that we lose as much water as we acquire gadgets. I have about 10 to 20 kilos of gadgets personal, and I have lost as much water. So we become harder and harder. And in order to reestablish certain harmony, I think would say that hard skills allow me to compensate for my losses in soft skills and to communicate with people, if not softly, at least in the hard way, that is through the hard gadgets. So this is my answer to Sergey. And I hope that in principle, the main part of these 3 slides, they will perhaps not work, or will they? These 3 slides are dedicated to repair two orientation points we have decided, and I will remember this my speech, my presentation forever, because it was on at 7:40 on Friday the 13th in the year 17. It's an unforgettable. I should say that I also tenderly love education, just as the business. So in order to remain soft, I'm talking mostly about the ecosystem. If you throw something hard into an ecosystem, too much of oil or figures, it may die. So an ecosystem should stay an ecosystem, and within this ecosystem, we should have a model of conduct, and we should understand that which business models we should learn. And the last thing is that we should first learn to see future. So these 3 slides are the support points we should understand. We know we live in a sort of in a certain world nowadays, and we are used to it, and whether it is good or bad, we are adapted to it. And this model of this ecosystem has not yet been destroyed, but it will change. So we should see how it will change. The first step which we are taking in school, when we develop our programs and research, we try to understand the actual state of the ecosystem. The call to unite our efforts and to describe correctly what will be environmentally friendly, how we can survive. The second part is business models, and studying all the business models that exist in the world. There are lots of them, MIT model and others. But the biggest description of business models has been given by Sandgani, 55 business models which describe practically everything that exists. And the second step, before we shape our new ecosystem and before we search for what we are to teach to our future generation, well, we should look at St. Gallen, at the traditional, classical, etc., etc. Everybody is building platforms and open systems, and something which is underused and which is going to exist. There's an ecosystem. We put the ecosystem, the business models into it, and now we should imagine the future. And now, as I am finishing, and as Sergey Vorobyov 20 years ago launched the first scenario planning in Russia. Together with Vladimir Preobrazhensky, they have put such an impetus into our country that all the country began to work on the 2015 scenario. So it is not. It doesn't matter what they achieved, but in any case, they built such scenarios, and everything has been achieved and overachieved, if I remember the history correctly. So we will talk about it in a friendly manner after that. So people were ready for this, and we now must build such scenarios, and this is one of the scenarios which we built thanks to the efforts of a large part of those people present here, the foresight session, scenario planning, and four final situations appeared for fully centralized and regulated Russia, Russia regulated and centralized with autonomous for decentralization, everything reactive and decentralized. And so we had an idea of what can we achieve in the future, and we can adapt our programs of teaching to these scenarios, and the better our future generations know all possibilities, they will be better at adapting, they will strangle any black swan that they encounter, so they would be able to inscribe all their soft and hard skills in the program of their personal development. And so this is a proposal which I would like to make to everyone, and perhaps in April or in May we could meet in Skolkovo, make a certain foresight project, and achieve a certain idea of the building of a certain of a new economy in Russia. And so I suggest that we should develop this ability to live, the soft skills. Then I liked very much Konstantin's proposal. He said almost in the same seat that I'm sitting. We should personally invest money into education. We have bought almost everything. 20 kilos of gadget. Let's invest our money into education. He has developed 2 startups. So he develops not just consumption, but also spending. These are investments. So we should all invest into our education. And we won't produce any environmental pollution. In my last proposals, which I have made to everyone, let us make scenarios together. And these scenarios will prepare us and the future generation to all possible outcomes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Evgeny, but you're not the last speaker. And I would ask Andrei Korshunov, the operational director of the FinTech program, to speak on the launch of the program and on what has been done and why. Although we had a general customer, Sberbank, which understood very well that it needed both hard and soft and many other issues, but there should be also understanding of why the programs are launched only as pilot programs and what limitations exist there. So please do it in 1 minute and a half. Just 5 slides. Okay. So the first slide. We have thought and we have identified 4 elements of success for any innovation program. The first one is criterion, then a visionary team, the change leaders, professionals who support and promote the program. Without leaders who would be the drivers of the program, no one, no university, no corporation would be able to implement a program. There would be not enough, motivation, not enough KPIs, because only the tops have the right KPIs. Second slide, the best teachers and practitioner experts. Here we see only those who will work during the first term, this term, and in next term there will be two slides, and then the next slide is a better educational environment. RANEPA is a big institution with a lot of departments, lots of talented people who do their work well, and we should do it as we are doing with Anna Nikolaevna. We should cooperate and coordinate and bring all those programs together to merge them into a single whole. The fourth slide is best students. These are our real students. Part of them are here. If they have not yet left, yes, I see Militaev. And yes, I see 3, and the rest have left. And the last one, the Competence Center of FinTech. That's the last element of my model. That's what we want to achieve. We call everybody calls himself a center and not a periphery. But we have called it center of competence, but we can call it a periphery of competences for our academy to effectively enter the environment of FinTech, so that we would. And so that's the last slide. Thank you. So very quickly, but I would like to add also some rather difficult things. You have removed the presentation. Put it back, please. So what's the problem really? And the subject that has been touched upon concerning soft skills. At first, we failed to create at one and the same chair or within the academy a program, and we had a harder time finding good teachers, looking for them at different places. They are not always university teachers. These might be also experts on the ground, opinion leaders, and we are grateful to the central bank, which has got involved in this process, is that they conduct research, or they study information, and they can transmit their knowledge. The problem of launching new programs is that there is no holistic vision of everything, and separate experts can describe only how this something might be developed in individual startups. But in order to develop a program, we need an opinion which would adequately assess how this or that methodology works and why, without subjectivity. And I would like to look again at the ecosystem slide. The key issue which must be raised by every education center when launching a program. Who exists? Who they can find around? Who has the necessary knowledge? And one of our objectives, which we try to achieve, not always successfully, is to involve everybody who exists in the ecosystem regarding this the FinTech, so that they would work in this education process, or perhaps our students who should know what role they are playing, which objectives they are guided by, and so that they would be able to use it later in their activities, so that they wouldn't come to their working place and wouldn't ask, what is it? And here, in fact, we should understand that the connections are only being established, and there is no single solution. So I haven't exceeded my time limits? No? Okay, thank you. And now I would like Sergey Ilyich as the chief moderator who has conducted the discussion on soft skills to conclude our session. So I will stand up out of respect for the audience. First of all, I take off my hat to everybody who managed to survive here until 7:52. So the subject has proved interesting, and no cocktail is offered afterwards. As you know, knowledge starts from ignorance. My partner, because of whom I started working in education, Shishniak, who used to be a respectable man and who had a wonderful career in business from a meat department a mid-department worker in a department store to the head of a corporation. Well, we have exceeded our time limits, which is of course bad, but nonetheless, he wrote a book about soft skills. We still have a problem of translating into Russian. Well, the Sberbank knows a lot about that, but still. I, for myself, have found a definition in the internet because I have got tired, and I found the most banal one: self-management and management of personal relations. But of course, as for effectiveness, efficiency. Well, efficiency is also very important. And this universalism is also here. So why do we have so many problems with soft skills? Because the country has lived in the vertical of power. So I am the chief. If I'm the chief, you are a fool. If you are the chief, I am a fool. So hard skill. We did have those hard skills, and soft skills were privatized by the state. And if a person is defending himself, so this person. Well, I have graduated from a technological university in 2001. I was happy that the first three founding fathers of PepsiCo, Don Kendall of the historical one, the second one, and the existing woman to whom they gave the power. So all the three of them, convinced me that leadership is a thing you can develop. I said, no, it comes from God, and so we all agreed. There should be leaders. There should be some competences. So if you haven't got any leadership competences, then there is nothing to develop. But if you have something to develop, then it can be developed. And science over the latest 20 or 30 years has developed. As for the combination of hard skills and soft skills, well, I say that you cannot put hard on soft. It falls through. First of all, you develop hard skills and then soft skills. So if you draw an analogy with the sports, if you cannot skate and you have weak hands, you came onto the ice, you fell down and break your legs or arms. So if you first learn to skate and then go out on the ice. And you remember the Kovac story. They explained as they could, but they said that 95% of preparation is physics. But when you are ready, when you have learned all this, then you can improvise. You remember, for example, the competition of captains in the KVN squeeze. It's also 95% is homework, and only 5% is improvisation. So there is a difficulty in translations of soft skills. I'm not going to impose my own definition. Well, as for digitalization is another thing that we have to learn, and everybody will learn it. But we should not drown in a sea of information. Soft skills is, for me as a former mathematician, is another mathematical operator, which increases the effectiveness of communication and perhaps humanity has been thinking hard and found the only way to overcome this plethora of information. So I like very much teaming. It was developed by a woman who is a mother of 3 children. I liked what she said and I believed her. But teaming has nothing with soft skills. It necessitates very good hard skills. And so we managed to codify it and managed to teach it. It's difficult. It takes effort. But if somebody has done any sport, you remember that you need to train. Well, for example, coaching is nothing which has nothing with, for example, nuclear physics, but it's very hard because you have to impose things on yourself which you don't like. You make an effort and you change yourself. It will help you to process information, because the most difficult thing in the modern world, you get a lot of information, you don't know what to do with it. I haven't, and when I learned it, I haven't found anything more than I learned in my university.
Capable of doing everything. No definition, no differences between me and the head of the chair. No one have been ever talking about this. That was a natural way how to develop this story. This is a sort of description by 3 axes. Team, spirit, capability to learn, and communication. Andragogy. This is how it's called. This is who are loving not children but the adults, and other ways of operation. And remembering my story with the Pepsi Cola company, if you would like to maximize your efforts, if you're trying to find the proper way to go, and when by the 3rd year of my university you realize that all my educations end up going to library, now it's end up to the internet. No one was asking some mathematical efforts, just success in other disciplines. This year, I tried to use these recent advances in unprepared audience. These were investment blokes and people who are dealing with our experience in the regions. When I read this, I realized that this is what I was taught by the third year. We apply this, and they survived. So practically, it looks like a concentration camp. The question is how far they would go, but we apply the recent extremes and the most difficult methods with soft kills. We created a program around soft kills, and we discovered that we managed to achieve what we wanted to achieve. They came to get recipes, but we said that we are not going to give the fish. We are not going to give money how to catch a fish. These are not the otherwise you are not so wise, and we are going so 200, 300 pages of the text, working until 9 o'clock, and now I'm going to Harvard, and my work would start at 8:30 till 11:30 p.m. So using this software, you can get the environment, the targeted environment, and if you manage to survive, you're trying to use this environment at your workplace. And peer-to-peer education is quite available, and you're trying to duplicate it in your countries. What should be done with the first graduates? We need to start this program as early as possible, and maybe we need to apply this system and to apply these methods even further. Preobrazhensky told about this creativity thinking, but these are the people who didn't graduate from the Moscow University. Volodin just lectured us about the space between the ears. There should be a brain between the ears. If not, then you should look for some position of thinking. So, briefly, this is on the verge of the possible or not possible. But if not, then maybe you should knock at their doors. In principle, summing up what you said, we have never had such a disaster, and we had just evolution way of development, and now we see the different way. We need to go together with the rest of the world. So what would be with our education? Nothing unexpected. It's real, and it was one of the best in the world during the Soviet Union. But now we are moving backwards, and no, so far we see that the backgoers are in advanced position. Maybe we will continue this discussion at the next meeting. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you very much to all. Thank you.